There's a quiet kind of self-abandonment that almost no one talks about. It doesn't look dramatic. It doesn't look chaotic. It doesn't even look unhealthy. In fact, it looks kind. It looks patient. It looks mature. It looks emotionally intelligent. It looks like being the person who always understands. The one who says, "I know they didn't mean it. They've been through a lot. I just need to be more compassionate." But here's the question no one asks you. At what point did understanding everyone else become more important than understanding yourself? Because there is a hidden cost to being too understanding. And most empaths don't see the bill until they're exhausted, resentful, and strangely invisible in their own lives. Tonight, we're going to talk about what that cost really is. Not to shame your compassion, but to protect it. Number 1. When understanding becomes a survival strategy. Empathy is beautiful, but hyper-understanding is often learned. Many people who identify as empaths didn't become that way randomly. They adapted. As children, they learned to read the room, to anticipate moods, to soften tension, to decode emotional weather. Understanding wasn't a virtue. It was protection. If you could understand the angry parent, the distant caregiver, the unpredictable authority figure, you could stay safe. So you became skilled. You learned to explain other people's behavior better than they could. You learned to see the wound behind the wound. You learned to humanize harm. And that ability probably made you the strong one, the mature one, the easy child. But here's what happened quietly. You never learned that someone was supposed to understand you too. Number 2. The invisible shift. At some point, empathy stopped being connection and started being self-erasure. You began translating everyone's behavior internally. They are stressed. They didn't sleep. They're insecure. They are triggered. They don't know how to communicate. And maybe all of that is true. But something else is also true. You are hurt. And instead of feeling that hurt, you intellectualize it. You bypass it. You soothe them. You regulate them. You explain them to yourself. And in doing so, you override your own nervous system. The body says, "That didn't feel good." The mind says, "Be understanding." And slowly, the body learns to go quiet. Number 3. The cost you don't see until later. Being too understanding creates 4 silent consequences. 1. You attract people who don't self-reflect. Why would someone reflect if you're doing the emotional labor for them? If you are always finding their reasons, they never have to. If you minimize the impact of their behavior, they never feel it. If you regulate their emotions for them, they never learn how. Compassion without boundaries creates dependency, and sometimes it invites manipulation. 2. Start doubting your own perception. When you explain away every red flag, you disconnect from intuition. Your gut says, "This isn't aligned." Your mind says, "Don't overreact." Over time, your self-trust weakens. You become unsure if something is actually wrong, or if you're just too sensitive. That confusion is expensive. 3. Resentment builds quietly. Empaths rarely explode. They implode. They carry. They hold. They absorb. Until one day, they feel drained, irritated, distant, numb. And they don't even know why. Because consciously, they've been so understanding. But subconsciously, they've been abandoning themselves. You lose your edges. Healthy people have edges, preferences, standards, lines. When you are too understanding, your edges blur. You tolerate things that hurt you. You stay longer than you should. You convince yourself love means endurance. It doesn't. Number 4. The psychology of self-abandonment. Self-abandonment doesn't feel dramatic. It feels like patience. It feels like maturity. It feels like being the bigger person. But here's the truth. If you constantly override your own emotional signals to preserve someone else's comfort, you are training your nervous system to believe, "My needs are less important." That belief doesn't stay in one relationship. It becomes identity. You become The one who understands. The one who forgives. The one who stays. The one who fixes. The one who explains. But who holds you? Who sits with your hurt without analyzing it? Who validates your experience without defending the other person? If the answer is no one, that is the cost. Number 5. Empathy versus over-identification. Here's something subtle but powerful. Empathy is not the same as emotional fusion. You can understand someone without absorbing their behavior. You can see their wounds without tolerating their impact. You can hold compassion without sacrificing clarity. The problem begins when understanding becomes justification, when compassion becomes compliance, when insight becomes self-betrayal. You are allowed to say, "I understand why you did that, and it still hurt me." That sentence is maturity. Number 6. Why this pattern is hard to break. Because being understanding has been rewarded your whole life. People praise you for it. You're so wise. You're so patient. You're so emotionally intelligent. You're not like other people. It feels good. It becomes identity. But identity can trap you. If your value is tied to being the calm, forgiving, grounded one, what happens when you want to say, "This doesn't work for me anymore"? There's fear there. Fear of being seen as selfish. Fear of disappointing others. Fear of conflict. So you default back to understanding, even when it hurts. Number 7. Reclaiming balanced empathy. Balanced empathy requires 3 things. 1. Self-awareness. Notice when you are explaining someone's behavior. Before acknowledging your own reaction, pause. Ask, "What did that feel like in my body?" Start there. 2. Emotional honesty. You don't need to attack. You don't need to accuse. You don't need to shame. But you do need to name your experience. "I understand you're stressed. And I felt dismissed." That's not cruelty. That's integration. 3. Boundaries without bitterness. A boundary is not punishment. It's clarity. It says, "I can care about you and still protect myself." If someone only likes you when you are endlessly understanding, they don't like you. They like the access. Number 8. The shift into inner authority. When you stop over-understanding, something powerful happens. You become still. You stop scrambling to decode. You stop translating harm into excuses. You begin listening inward instead of outward. And something inside you stabilizes. You realize, understanding someone does not require tolerating everything from them. You are allowed to be compassionate and discerning, warm and firm, open and self-respecting. That is inner authority, not coldness, not detachment, not indifference. It's authority. Number 9. What happens when you stop being too understanding? Some people will be uncomfortable. They will say you've changed. You have. You've stopped disappearing. The right people will feel safer. Because clear empathy is safer than endless accommodation. And you will notice something subtle but life-changing. Your nervous system relaxes. Because it no longer has to override itself. Finally, slow, grounded, reflective. If you've been the one who understands everyone, I want to say something clearly. There is nothing wrong with your empathy. It is not weakness. It is not naivety. It is strength. But strength without boundaries turns inward. And you were never meant to be the emotional container for everyone else. You are allowed to understand others and still choose yourself. You are allowed to see their wounds without stepping into them. You are allowed to say, "I see you, and I see me too." That is not selfish. That is wholeness. If this resonated, sit with this question tonight. Where have I been understanding others more than I've been understanding myself? And if you're ready to reclaim balanced empathy, stay with this work, because this is where the real integration begins.